Good morning, guys. Welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation. I'm Owen James. This is your morning news update, or your news update, depending on when you're getting it, of course. Look, Danny Rohl is now the head coach. That's important to put that tag on it. It was very much spoken about as constantly referred to by Kevin Thelwell as head coach, coaches, constantly. Very interesting situation yesterday, very interesting press conferences. As regards, obviously, what Danny Rohl had to say, what Andrew Cavenagh, Kevin Thelwell had to say, even Patrick Stewart to some degree as well. I've got to say, I've watched all of the pressers now, caught up with everything that's been going on at the club. Now, I would say, obviously, Andrew Cavenagh, I thought, spoke exceptionally well. He was very confident, clearly a very ambitious man, clearly a man who wants the best for the club. And I think, maybe Andrew Cavenagh has been the victim of someone who's had bad advice and has perhaps followed the wrong people's advice at times. Hopefully, this is something that he has realised himself. He's clearly a very smart man. You don't get to where he is in business without being a clever guy. So we've got to hope that he has seen the error of his ways on certain people and certain issues, and it will take a more active control of the club from that aspect. Look, Danny Rohl, in terms of Danny Rohl, he is the head coach now. We need to back the head coach and get behind him and hope that he can turn things round on the pitch. That is the key thing for all fans, is what is going on the pitch and seeing an improvement, not only in performances, but in results as well. Danny Rohl is clearly a guy who is very ambitious. He, says about wanting to come to a club that can win titles. He wants to be successful. He wants to play football the right way. It's interesting, listening to Rohl and listening to what Kevin Thelwell was saying in terms of them seeing Rohl as a difference in style, as a difference in way of playing to how Russell Martin played. When you kind of go back to the appointment of Russell Martin, they spoke very much about Martin being the kind of coach who brings the style and the way that they wanted the club to play, which it's interesting now that that's suddenly just changed in the space of a few months. Have we so changed things massively that we don't want to play that way anymore? We want to play a different. I don't know. It to me sounds a bit disingenuous from Thelwell. In the way that he spoke. I've got to say, I listened to Kevin Thelwell. Yes, there's always going to be preconceived ideas about Kevin Thelwell. I was very unimpressed with the way the man spoke and how he spoke. I still have zero faith in Kevin Thelwell as sporting director, zero faith in his ability to take this club forward, and zero faith in his ability to make the right signings to improve this football club. Danny Rohl, for me, I think, will attempt to play football the right way, will attempt to be more aggressive, will attempt to make more progressions in the passing, will attempt to bring in a more higher press, a higher volume in his press. I've got to just react to one comment that was made yesterday on the video. There was a guy who commented on the video yesterday. I can't help but feel at times some people kind of see the title, a video, and look at the thumbnail of the video, and actually don't even bother watching the video. They go in with a kind of preconceived idea, and they go in with their own little agenda. For me, it's a bit ridiculous. It's a bit stupid, This was the comment by somebody. He said, "This is a pessimistic rant by a fan who just didn't get the guy he wants. Is there anyone you never slammed in this video? Fuck's sake, give the new guy a chance." Well, actually, if you actually watched the video, I didn't actually slam Rohl. I said that he's a decent coach, that he plays football the right way, that he plays in a very much the traditional German style of aggressive pressing, high pressing football. What I said was that he would be doing the job with one hand tied behind his back because of Kevin Thelwell, and that he would struggle because of Kevin Thelwell, and he would struggle because he wouldn't be able to bring in his own players. So this guy, a guy called John 5 Buffalo, go and check the comment out, he's clearly an absolute moron who either didn't watch the video or genuinely can't get into his thick head what I was actually talking about. The same way that somebody said about Tav, came at me about Tav. What I actually said about Tav was he is not a captain in the slightest. Absolutely, there's a lot of people who just don't listen or have a preconceived idea or a preconceived agenda within our fan base, and that is a big issue for me. There's a number of our fans that are quite thick. I believe. And we'll be better off supporting the green and white fat club across the city rather than ours. But in terms of Rohl, like I said, I think, he will try to play football the right way. He will play with that more aggressive style, which is what we want to see. We'll play faster, quicker. And I think, obviously, the fact that he's worked with Gassama as well will help Gassama to continue to develop. And Gassama's been one of our better players. My hope is that he will get the best out of the likes of Raskin, out of the likes of Ant-Man and Curtis, but may get more of a look in. That Miovski may come more into his own. That those more attack-minded players may flourish under Rohl's style, which is clearly different to Russell Martin. So that has got to be a big hope. And I was impressed how Rohl speaks very much in terms of taking it game by game. There's no long-term plan there. It is in terms of we address Brann, then we address Kilmarnock, then we address the next game, then the next game, then the next game. It's not in 3 months we'll be here, in 6 months we'll be here, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It's very much about this is the next game, this is what we're looking at, this is what we're focusing on, this is what we're concentrating on, which is very much, I think, how some of the top managers in England talk, which is reassuring. The other thing that obviously reassures me about Rohl to some degree is the fact that he worked at Bayern Munich, so he will have that ability to work under pressure, that ability to understand big club mentality. Bayern Munich are one of the biggest clubs in the world. The pressure at Bayern Munich to win titles, to win Champions Leagues is absolutely massive. So that is obviously something that he will bring to Rangers, and it is reassuring. On Andrew Cavenagh, like I said, I'm very impressed with the way he spoke. He spoke well. He owned up to his mistakes. He said mistakes have been made. He was very open and honest. And I think that's refreshing, if you compare it to the board of the past, who perhaps didn't have that openness and that honesty about mistakes they've made. They tried to hide behind things, shuffle blame, etc., etc. So that was very, very impressive indeed. The Thelwell situation does not fill me at all with optimism going forward. Kevin Thelwell, to me, just kind of doubled down on, I'm doing a great job, I'm good at what I do, I will get the players in. Now, he obviously countered what Coppen had said about the English market having a limited value. He said there isn't a limited value within the English market, whereas the evidence appears very much to point to the contrary. And not just in this season's signings. So I'm not just talking about the likes, of Asgard, for example, of Fernandez, of Giga, of Magoma, of Aarons, etc. I'm also talking about past signings as well, Matondo, Davis, Lawrence, etc., who have all, I think, come from the English Championship or even higher and not impressed in the slightest. So I think, in terms of that comment that Thelwell made, countering what Niels Coppen said, the jury is very much still out on that one. And, the value in the English market is perhaps not there at this moment in time. I thought it was really interesting what Andrew Cavenagh said about us being way too heavy on loans. Quite clearly an indication that perhaps that is not a market we will be exploring come January. But he did say that I think that there will be backing for I suppose, Thelwell, unfortunately, in January to go out and waste even more money. On the Yusuf Chimiti thing, it was good that somebody actually brought up the Chimiti thing. And obviously, Thelwell backed his signing to the hilt. I thought what he said and what he spoke about in terms of Chimiti was absolute bollocks. It's all very well and good saying, if Chimiti was a top-class player, we wouldn't be able to afford him. But what he appears to kind of miss is that in the Scottish game, $8.5 million is a substantial amount of money on a player who has massively failed to impress in any game. Whenever he's come on, he's made absolutely zero difference. Whenever he's started, he's made absolutely zero difference. His first touch does not look good. His ability to take chances does not look good. He talked about him being the most physical and strongest in the group. Well, that's certainly not something we've seen on the pitch. And it's all very well and good, him and to some degree Cavenagh talking about what future value Chimiti may have. But that's very much may have. There's no proof that Chimiti will go on to be worth any sort of money. I still think something stinks around the Chimiti transfer, and I think it should be looked into, or absolutely looked into. I think it is an absolute waste of £8.5 million, money that could have been spent on Seema, that could have been spent on Tierney, that could have been far better spent on other players. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I think Lawrence Shankland would have been a better player to bring in than Yusuf Chimiti. What was really interesting as well is how everyone on the panel seemed to speak about the lack of leaders on the pitch, which I think is right. I think that was spot on. There is a real lack of leadership in this in this group. And I think at times it is clear on the pitch, when the game starts to turn against us, no one is there to get hold of the team, to pull them together and say, look, sort it out. We need to get back in this game, get your heads back in the game, sort your head out. A la Butcher, a la Ferguson, for example. Once again, I will double down on what I said yesterday. James Tavernier is not a captain, should not be the captain, and should be stripped of the captaincy. People talking about giving him another year on his deal. Please, God, no. Certainly not. He is not a captain. He is not a leader. Whenever the going gets tough, Tav gets hiding. As a captain. I'm just going to re-emphasise that. As a fucking captain. Please listen rather than going on your own agenda, Tav fanboys. So, I do think there is an element of a lack of leadership. I think we do need a new club captain. If I was Danny Rohl today, I would go into Howie. I would strip Tav of the captaincy and I would give it to someone like Nicholas Rascan or Jack Butland, for example. James Tavernier is probably one of the worst captains in this club's history. Right, guys, let me know your thoughts on what was said yesterday and what we've said on this video. Thank you for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation, guys. As always, I'll catch you on the next one. If you enjoyed the content, like, comment, share, and subscribe.